Let's get into all of it. I'm joined by Mark Thompson, host of the Make It Plain podcast. He's interviewed many candidates for president and has covered a lot of these issues. Tom Rogers has written for Newsweek as a media executive and an attorney and has worked in Congress, among other things. And Lawrence Gostin, a university professor at Georgetown Law and director of the O'Neill Institute for National and Global Health Law with an expertise on infectious diseases and advising the WHO. Plenty experience all around. Lawrence, I'll start with you. What do you think is the best way for people to understand coming out of this long weekend that staying home forever is not the solution, nor what the CDC requires, but we are seeing a kind of a burst in some places that suggests people are not finding the middle ground?
Yeah, well, Ari, happy holiday to you and all of your viewers. You know, there are ways to go out and be safe. We want people to be happy. We want them to enjoy themselves, but there are ways to do it. Doing it outdoors, distancing yourself, wearing a mask. These are all ways you can really enjoy your food, you can enjoy company, and be safe. Remember, we're doing this not just for ourselves, we're doing it for our parents, grandparents, neighbors, and others. And so it's so important, particularly on Memorial Day, which is a somber day, and we're going through a somber period. We need to actually, we don't want to get back to where we were before, but that could happen.
Mark, on the political side, take a listen to this protester.
The number one purpose is to fight the tyranny that this shutdown has caused, and to fight the tyranny that the governor is imposing on the American people in the state of New Jersey. We don't believe in his executive orders. We don't believe in him legislating by executive order. The people need a voice.
Mark?
Well, and it's good to be with you, Ari, and good to be on with a fellow Georgetown Hoya. We're all praying for Coach Patrick Ewing. I would hope we would get to the point where we would show people actually protesting some of these governors who are trying to force reopenings and who are not taking care of their citizens. For example, in Alabama, the Greene County Democrats, the Alabama NAACP, and others led by John Zippert and others are having caravans of protest against the governor of Alabama for not expanding Medicaid. Because one of the things that's going to have to happen once we get out of this is a reexamination of healthcare policy all the way around. And we see now more than ever before the need for Medicaid expansion, Medicare, Medicaid for all, if not universal health care. And that is a result, that's what's causing so many deaths. And let me also just say, this is Memorial Day. We honor those who have fallen because of wars. Wars come about because of policy, good or bad. And so the deaths in this coronavirus pandemic are a result, many of them, because of Donald Trump's policy or lack thereof. So those who have fallen because of COVID-19 on this Memorial Day, I think are just as worthy of the same honor because they lost their lives because of policy. And Lord knows Donald Trump is waging war himself against democracy.
Well, and we've heard from our experts about which aspects of this are consequence of policy and which may have been inevitable given how many different countries were hit and have had the toll. Tom, I wanted to bring you in on the politics of all this. Joe Biden out today, as we mentioned, and he's wearing a mask, which is a contrast to Trump. He's got an ad taking on Trump for being basically, in his view, MIA on the golf course while the deaths mount. Where do you see, as we go past Memorial Day into what will be, what always is, the heartbeat of a presidential campaign waged in different circumstances virtually, what do you see as Joe Biden doing now?
Well, Ari, we have two rampant viruses going on this Memorial Day weekend. We have the coronavirus, which has infected the bodies of some 2 million people across the country. And then we have the Trump cult virus, which has infected 45% of the body politic. Fortunately, it seems as if over 50% of the country has antibodies to the Trump cult virus. But it is a virus that causes people to be ignorant. Ignorant because of Trump's misinformation, ignorant because of his scapegoating and blaming others, ignorant because he's effectively telling people to ignore his own government's guidelines of how the public health crisis ought to be handled. And the issue for Biden is, how do you create a narrative that makes that abundantly clear? I don't understand the Trump re-election reasoning. This is supposedly being managed by him because he thinks it's the better path to re-election, as if 100,000 dead isn't good enough to get reelected. But if he moves that toward 200,000 dead, that's a sure bet toward reelection. And I don't understand, with Joe Biden leading among elderly Americans by some 17%, a key demographic that Donald Trump must win, that Hillary Clinton ran on and lost by 7%. Excuse me.
Both options have 20 grams of protein and 170 calories. That's your first.
I'll tell you what. I'll let you. I'll bring Mark in and come back to you. But Mark, on that very point, you have. I want to read a little bit of where we get into fudging these numbers at the state and federal level. You have states like in Georgia, where officials say they had to correct what was described as a, quote, processing error that wrongly showed a downward trend in new daily infections, making it appear as if new infections had dropped 2 weeks straight. It was the third error in 3 weeks. And that fits into what Trump's critics have said is a pattern of trying to just message and reality show the underlying horror, the underlying facts.
Yeah, and people should pay more attention to that because this is very dangerous. And as people return to the outside, I know it was a nice weekend and a nice day. That's not the answer. The only way we can stop this is by people continuing to remain inside, continuing to remain distant, continuing to wear masks. And that's the only reasonable thing. It's true. This is disproportionately affecting not only African Americans and other people of color and poor working class people, but it's affecting some of Trump's base. But they've been transparent. They've said that some of them are worth sacrificing. Again, as if this is some foreign war, that some of them are going to have to lose their lives for an economy that may not even come back, because I don't know that people are going to be ready just to run back in to some of these stores or some of these businesses. Some businesses have already said they're not going to open up for the rest of the year. So it's really ridiculous what's going on. It's almost sickening. It's malicious when it comes to people's lives, and that's exactly why we all really need to close ranks and be sure that we send Donald Trump home in November.
Mark, Lawrence, and Tom, my thanks to each of you kicking us off.